The Watson State Ghana. We will share everything in between. We'll do all this while living abroad. Are we in over our heads? Stay tuned to find out. Journey with us while we navigate all aspects of Ghana life. The Watson State Ghana. Welcome to Ghana, a dynamic and diverse nation located on the west coast of Africa. Home to over 32 million people, Ghana is a land of rich culture, abundant resources, and endless possibilities.
Ababa. Medasi. Do you respond, Medasi?
Medasi.
Yes. Welcome. Let's begin with the experience straight away. So come with me. Let's do some brief introduction.
The Watson State Ghana. For wide market access with the world's largest free trade area and a 1.3 billion person market, the African continent is replete with business opportunities. The Watsons, we love Ghana.
My name is Pa Kwesi Obey. You can simply call me Kwesi because I was born in Sunday. I'll be with you for the next 45 minutes. You are free to ask questions and take some pictures. But before we start walking, I will give you a brief background history about the dungeons, the forts and the castles, and transatlantic or European slave trade. The Europeans came to our coast, the west coast of Africa, and did not rest at all because they built about 60 dungeons in West Africa. 60. Out of the 60, Ghana had about 40, all because of our gold. So it was not surprising that they named our coast Gold Coast. Our neighboring coast was named Ivory Coast. The coast of present-day Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Slave Coast. So as they were getting a lot of gold from here, they were getting a lot of ivory from the other side, and a lot of enslaved Africans from the side. But out of the 40, we now have about 22 existing in Ghana. 19 forts, 3 castles. So together about 22 dungeons in Ghana. First dungeon built is in Elmina. They call it Elmina Castle, which is just like 15 kilometers away from here. It was built by the Portuguese in the year 1482. Oldest European structure outside entire Europe. Second dungeon is in Accra, Christiansburg, Osu. Denmark built Christiansburg, 1661. This is the youngest, the third, the last dungeon, Cape Coast, built by the British. This English, 1665, about 359 years old. Very old, but the structure is still strong. And the original structure by the British has no cement, no annual bars, annual rods. Any cement mortar you see around is what we use to restore the edifice. They used burnt bricks, imported lime powder from oyster shells with oil and sand as binding material, stones, pitch pine timber with cheap African labor, if not free. They built the country. What I mean is, labor was by our people, and that should inform us that our ancestors contributed, built their own dungeons and cells. After they were held, they were killed in them. They bought, the Europeans bought, they had our ancestors, held them in the dungeons as I just indicated, brought ships, loaded them, sent most of them to the Americas, the Caribbean, the West Indies, flew to Europe to work, develop their countries for them. Some of our people who became victims were people the Europeans themselves raided or kidnapped. What I mean is they could set a whole village on fire, and as the people were running helter-skelter for their lives, they raided for the young ones. You could be working on a farm with your daughter, your husband, your son, your brother. You look back and he or she is gone. Sometimes they used deceit. Let's go to our home countries. We will give you better lives. They ended up working for them. Sadly, and there were some instances where some of our own African chiefs, traditional rulers, prominent personalities, brought some people and sold. But they were not selling their brothers, their sisters, their children. Most of the people they brought were rather some of their prisoners of war. People were captured during war first. Because there was no Ghana, there was no Togo, no Nigeria, no Burkina Faso and others. One big continent made of states. empires, kingdoms, ethnic groups, tribes, as we still have. They all wanted to expand, fighting among themselves. Those who were defeated, instead of them to be killed by the victors, they were rather captured, they imprisoned them, and sold some out for gunpowder. I said what? They were fighting, meaning there was a gap. Africans were not that united then. The Europeans took advantage of that. And sadly, we are still not united, and they are also still taking advantage. Wherever they got the captives, mainly from West Africa, they walked them in chains and shackles. Some died. Imagine walking from Kumasi to Cape Coast, over 200 kilometers. Tamale is about 600. Relatively, Kumasi Tamale is not far because others came from present day Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Guinea, and others, and they were all brought to the coast because that is where they built the dungeons. Those who survived these long journeys, when they brought them here, some were taken upstairs. There's a big hall upstairs called Palava Hall. Palava Hall was the auction block. There were European doctors, nurses in there, and they were there to examine the captives to determine their strength. After, they were not even sold out for money. They were exchanged for guns, gunpowders, mirror, fabrics, liquor, alcohol, tobacco, knives, sugar, and others, according to their strength. Meaning Africans were reduced low to the level of commodity like mirror, like tobacco. After the auction, they brought them here. They branded them for easy identification before they were pushed into the dungeons. And they were in the dungeons, not only this dungeon, but all the other dungeons for a few days. So about 3 solid months, waiting for the ships to come take them to where? North America, South America, the Caribbean, or the West Indies, like Brazil. Now I mentioned Brazil first because Brazil received the highest number. About 46% were sent to Brazil by the Portuguese. That is why till date, in the whole world, Brazil is second country after Nigeria with the highest number of black people. I mean, people of African descent. There are over 100 million black people in Brazil. Ghana is just about 32, 33 million. So population of Ghana, Togo, Benin, put together, we cannot match black folks only in Brazil. Most of them are there because of European slave trade. So to Brazil, in order, US affair, Suriname, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Antigua, Jamaica, Haiti, St. Vincent, Dominica, Bahamas, and others to work on sugar cane, tobacco, cotton, coffee plantations, rice fields and mines. Some were domestic, some few were sent to Europe, like Britain, mainly to do construction works. In the dungeons, the castles, they were separated, men from women. So Cape Coast here, the male dungeon is right here. Female dungeons are close to the door of no return. But see, the room here with the inscription, children's library, 3 windows facing the side. One of the windows partially open was a church. And this church is on top of the male dungeon. Church above the sleep. So Monday through to Saturday, the European sports they had our ancestors held them in the dungeon. Sunday, they will be having church service above them. It's that in Ghana, some people commonly say the ship that brought Bible, same ship took captives. And first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, once said, when the missionaries arrived, Africans had land, they had Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we open our eyes, they had the land, we had the Bible. Before we moved to the dungeon, the courtyard, this courtyard is full of graves. Dead bodies were buried all over here, including mass graves, but are graves of British. Because when some of our people died, in their own land, they were not given the faith and burial. Rather, their bodies were dumped into the ocean. So the Atlantic Ocean is the biggest mass grave ever. Because you cannot even count the number of Africans who were buried in this ocean. Because all those enslaved Africans who died in the dungeons were buried at sea. For about 400 years, all those who died on the ships were also buried in this Atlantic Ocean. but they had this as their cemetery. The courtyard was excavated. When the excavation was done, only 4 graves had marks. The first one here, the isolated one for Africa. 3 are from Europeans. One may ask, why is this African buried amongst white? Philip Parker was from this city, Cape Coast. His father was a middleman, one of those Africans doing buying and selling of captives. It's that this gentleman was awarded scholarship by the church to study in Britain. He attended Oxford University. They ordained him, became first African to be ordained a priest of the Anglican Church. And immediately after he was ordained, they brought him back because they needed him here. He worked with them for 15 years as clergyman, missionary, and a schoolmaster in the church. He died 17th October 1816. He was 75 years old. Slavery was abolished here 1833. He died 1816. Meaning this gentleman came or even died before slavery was abolished. So he was preaching the gospel. His fellow Africans were dying in the dungeons. And every 17th October, the Anglican people, it's not national, celebrate him. They come here, surround the grave, say prayers, lay flowers on the grave. Last year they came. Hopefully this year in a few days they'll be here. 3 are for Europeans. Let's just mention them, as they don't want much of our time. The first one up here for a soldier, C.B. Whitehead. The 2 for a man and his wife. The man, George McLean, administrator. The wife, Letitia Elizabeth London. The soldier died at the age of 38. The lady died 36 and the husband died 46. The British brought these cannons, cannonballs, mortar balls to defend themselves against who? The Portuguese, the Dutch, the Danes, the Germans, and others, because they were all trying to take over this facility. Business very profitable. If we're able to take over this, I mean we're going to control a whole business empire. It's that this very piece of land on which this dungeon is built on changed hands several, from Portugal to Sweden to Denmark to Netherlands to Britain. 5 European countries once occupied. And again, west coast of Africa became one front of the Anglo-Dutch Wars, 1664 to 1668. Same wars were fought in America. Who can share with us the original name of New York? Old name of New York. New York was called New Amsterdam. New York was called New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam was a Dutch colony. 1664, during the Anglo-Dutch Wars, fell to the British and they renamed New York. I don't know if you came from Accra, just about 25 kilometers before you get to Cape Coast. There's a fort called Fort Amsterdam. That's the fort you see. So that, yeah, exactly. That one was built by the British. So it was originally called Fort York. Fort York. In the year 1665, just a year after, the Dutch also did well this time round. They captured the fort from the British. So they also renamed Fort York Fort Amsterdam to retaliate what they lost in America. So New Amsterdam is now New York. Fort York, you saw, is now Fort Amsterdam. Just for that. So they pounded gunpowder in the cannon. A boat fixed their fire up. Boom. Some of them are with boats, and those who were filled with gunpowder entered the wooden ships, exploded. Those with their holes entered the ships, created holes in the ships. What a cable. The ships catching us. Let's start walking. Let's
The Watsons take you gonna.
You remain here. I'm going to cut off the light. When the light goes off, I will urge all of us to remain silent for a minute. The souls of our ancestors who were murdered during the feminists of God and them, those who were killed and went to the dungeons, those who were killed in the dungeons here, those who were murdered on the ships, and those who were killed on the plantations, rest in perfect peace. Ashe. There are 5 compartments, 5 chambers in the dungeon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the first chamber. Each chamber like this one. And this one measures 16 by 32 feet square. And it was occupied. The British part squeezed about 200 people. Imagine 200 people in this place. I mean, normally they were standing to sleep. If they wanted to sleep, you open your legs for the next person to sleep between 1, 3 minutes. They fight from this chamber to the last one for about 1,000 men. This very one was called strong chamber for those who were physically, mentally very strong. Because they were strong, they chained them, they were chained, normally by their ankles, against this wall. So see, they were knocking out the chains in these walls. 1, 2, 3, 4, there is 5 there, and 6. Again, they locked them up in the evening time. 200 people in this place. Sometimes, if not always, the dungeon became very hot. Temperature became very high. When it became unbearable for them, started screaming, crying, suffocating, they poured water on them for most levels to cool down the temperature and etc. When they poured the water, those who were very thirsty used the opportunity, cupped their hands like this. Westo sucked each other's hair for some water to quench their thirst. It is estimated that 30%, 3 out of 10, were killed only in the dungeons because communicable or infectious diseases spread very fast. As I told you, when some of them died, they were not given the fatal burial. Rather, once in a while, they brought in some of the domestic captives to pack the bodies in bags, added stones, dumped them into the sea. When that was not done, the living struggled with the dead bodies. Look at this. I mean, just sit or lie very close by me because 200 people you can imagine. And I can see, I can feel. It's not feeling more because he might be moaning. Meaning he's died. But I can't help him. The moaning ceases, touch the body, and the body is cold. Meaning he's gone, dead. If what killed him was a communicable or infectious disease like cholera, in a few days I can't say. If care is not taken, all those in the dungeon will catch the disease and die. And there were several diseases killing them because they were made to do everything to themselves here. What I mean is, they defecated here, urinated here, vomited, spat here, they ate, they slept here. With unkempt hair, rotten or decayed teeth, smelling bodies, some having sores on them. Imagine the stage. The house flies, the mosquitoes, the pain, the hunger, and the anger here. This dungeon was used not for 5, not for 10, not for 20 years. This dungeon was used for over 100 years. For these bad years, long years they used this place, they never cleaned the dungeon for them. Rainwater comes in when it rains from the hose. The water was supposed to flash out, feces, urine, vomit, and many others to the trenches, down to the sea. But the trenches here, choked, covered. Feces, urine, vomit, blood, sweat, tears, saliva, human flesh mixed with soil, covered the floor like a carpet. Look at this. Closely, you would notice that the floor in here, the floor here, is a little bit higher than the floor outside the ropes. Again, outside we see bricks, but here we don't see the bricks because the bricks here covered. Covering the bricks is the feces, the urine, the vomit, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the saliva, and a whole lot mixed with soil, petrified. Simply, this is DNA of our male ancestors. And if it is DNA of our male ancestors, then definitely it is our male DNA. The whole floor is covered like here, but archaeologists came from University of Ghana, Lagos, excavated this chamber. They left the portion here for us to talk about. Out of the excavation, they took from here chains, shackles, ropes, branding iron they used on our ancestors. They gave them food, they were fed, normally twice a day, but little food just to keep them alive. Most of the time, domestic captives were bringing food for the commercial ones here. But sometimes when those here were hungry and the food was not coming, they became very aggressive, very angry. Because they say, a hungry man is always an angry man. To avoid attacks, they didn't come in with the food. Rather, they dropped the food from both sides as well. Down here, those who were interested struggled for the food in the feces, in the urine, in the vomit. Some were there, the food dropped on them or in front of them, but refused to eat. Because how could human being pick food from feces, urine, vomit? Some preferred to starve themselves to death to end the excruciating pain. When they saw those people, they took them out, forced open their jaws with a device, speckled, pushed food in, so that at least they will eat something to keep them alive. As I told you, the other 4 chambers were not excavated, implying that we are now standing on DNA of our male ancestors. And see where I'm standing. It's a little bit higher here than going on. And it's thicker here because of this. As I just told you, sometimes they pass the food from holes like this one. And this one goes up, it's seen right in front of the church on top of this mountain. So they could be passing for church services, for communion services, and they could hear Africans screaming from the dungeon. In Almeida, the Dutch had a reformed church on top of a female dungeon. And Cape Coast Church of England, now Anglican church, is on top of this dungeon. So they were in the churches worshiping, singing praises, preaching the word of God. Love your neighbor as yourself. Thou shalt not kill. Captives, Africans were also in the dungeons, right beneath them, suffering, crying, dying. Number 5, which was also about 200 enslaved Africans, is now actually brighter than the other 4 chambers because of this. As I told you earlier, the captives were branded. They burnt marks on them. When the ships came, before they were loaded, in this last room, they sorted them out, counted them, so to know those who died and those who survived. Hence this open for more light, to see the marks, for easy sorting and counting. And after that, those who were strong enough to survive the ships were not allowed to walk to the courtyard. Rather, they marched them underground, from here to the door of no return. The entrance to the tunnel was behind this altar, blocked off with this wall. The wall the white calabashes placed on is what they used to close the entrance. They closed the entrance in the year 1833. 1833 is when the British passed the law to end slave trade in their possessions and territories, including this dungeon. 1833, they closed the entrance to signify that slave trade is over by the British. It's made of both metal and wood. Pitch pine wood to make it more stronger. They coated the wood with metal. Sail. But this is not an ordinary sail. This is condemnation sail. In other words, room of no return. Kindly lower your head. Bend down. So let me turn off the lights so we can see how dark it is.
Yes. condemnation cell, room of no return. This room was originally explored. So you can see there was a door here closed. When it was explored, this door was there. When they wanted to use the room as a cell, they closed the door. And those captives wanted to fight for their freedom, the freedom fighters. But they were seen by the British as stubborn or rebellious ones. But one thing we shouldn't forget is that they suffered for too long. And when man is suppressed, oppressed, depressed, or repressed for a long time, one day he will fight back, explode. Those who tried to escape and were caught, and those who constantly fought them. Could be 2, could be 5, or 10. They will chain all of them together. Amidst kicking, slapping, they will push them in. Lock them up with first door, second door, third door. The doors were 3. No light, no ventilation, meaning no oxygen, no food, no water. 2-3 days, maximum 4. They will struggle, suffocate. When they locked the doors, they made sure all of them died before they opened. I mean, even after 3 days, when they open, see 1 or 2 still alive, they will shut the doors again till the last person is gone. If I'm here with you and if you die before me, the only thing I could do is to sit or lie by the body. So they chain on the ankles or my ankles waiting for my turn. And if any of you die on the first day, by the 3rd, the 4th day, after they are gone, they will then bring in some of the male captives for the bodies. Gather all of this at the courtyard where the graves are. Those who come in for the bodies, they will instruct them to go show the bodies to those gathered, for them to see what they did to those they brought here. So they killed them here for no offenses, just that they wanted to fight for their freedom. That is why the room is called Condemnation. They pushed them in alive.
And they are saying something very touching here. They are saying, we are the children of those who refused to die. Most of the people were killed, most of them were murdered, but some refused to die, some survived. That is why I have the descendants like you scattered all over the globe. And these are names of some of them, some of the descendants, but very few, minute percentage, like 0.00001%. So if you all decide to paste your names here, I don't think our walls will be sufficient. Let's see the tunnel, female dungeons. Go to the door of no return and return through the door of return. Door of return is very, very quick. They built walls in the tunnel after slave trade, and they used part of the tunnel as storerooms and water systems. Some years back, we wanted to remove all the walls in the tunnel so we could walk a wonderful like country and also to see what is actually in it. Because there are some historians who have the view that after slavery, when the British abolished slave trade, the male captives who were still in the dungeon were not freed. They didn't let them go. There was no ship coming to carry them. So they pushed them into the tunnel and sealed, buried them alive. They will not let them go back to tell the people what they went through in the dungeons, to mobilize people come attack them. So let's bury them to bury them. So from where the shrine is, they walked them here, marched them out. They joined the women to the door of the return, sat on the pillars, 500 meters from the entered ships. Because most of the soldiers were prison convicts, they were prisoners back home. They brought them here to act as soldiers. So some of them were rapists, some of them were murderers, some of them were thieves, some of them were criminals and all that. So they were rapists, some of our female ancestors. And those who said no to rape, those who denied them, those who wanted to protect their little dignities left. But 8 of these women were pushed inside, locked them up with a heavy metal door. Food, water, just once a day. There's a hole down here for feces, for urine, for vomit, for blood. Because as young ladies, when they were here, some had their cycle all into the school. And after 7-10 days, those who survived were allowed to go back to the countries, just to punish them here. So at this time, they would agree also to serve as a lesson to the other female captives. So this female punishment cell for those female captives who said no to.
The Watson State Chicana. We will share everything in between. We'll do all this while living abroad. Are we in over our heads? Stay tuned to find out.
Named the door of no return, door of return, to break the jinx of door of no return, or to break the cycle of the European slave trade. And the renaming was done on 1st August 1998, 26 years ago, when Ghana celebrated first Emancipation Day. In fact, Ghana copied Emancipation Day celebration from Jamaicans, because 1997, our former president, late Jerry John Rawlings, was invited by Jamaicans to be the guest of honor for their Emancipation Day celebration. When he attended, he saw the need to duplicate same in Ghana because of the so 98 we started with it. The maiden one was symbolic because during the event, two caskets contained skeletal remains, bones of two descendants died in buried. Madam Crystal from Jamaica, Samuel Cousin from New York. They exhumed their bones, thrown them to Accra. Arrived, they received the remains from them, brought them to the door to the courtyard. And the very moment the remains passed through the door, the jinx of door of no return got broken. There's a ceremony here dubbed Great Homecoming. Right after the ceremony, they drove the remains to a town called Archaeology and then to Preston them for reburial. Archaeology is where they took their last African back at the banks of the river. That is why they sent the two remains there for reburial. On that day, August 1, 1998, when the jinx of door of no return got broken, Ghanaians renamed door of return. Invite now, brothers and sisters, in the guys.
Find out. Journey with us while we navigate all aspects of Ghana life. The Watson's Gate, Ghana. Welcome to Ghana, a dynamic and diverse nation located on the west coast of Africa.